have a phone call. Have I gone live?
Yeah.
Oh, I am? It looks stiff. Always looks different until I join. All right, welcome. Hi, Mar. Are you on the road? Did you make it back? Hi, Tracy. I'm so glad to see you, ladies. Hello. What? Huh?
Just couldn't find your live, but you're live.
Ah, cheers. I went with a Caribbean themed shirt today, that light blue. And I put on some pink earrings because I needed a little pink. Oh, yay, Justin Scott, welcome. You guys can finally make it. I know they've been watching the recordings and commenting after. I'm very glad that you are here. And then I was noting, Justin Scott, I'm wearing pink as a little pick-me-up because it's a dreary day.
Pink or blue?
Pink. Well, I'm wearing blue because we need a little sunshine. And then pink, a beautiful necklace from BFF. So, but I'm happy that you're here. Chris Westberg, top fan, welcome. Yes, you guys are all live. That's exciting. I know the summer is so hard to make to get here. So I'm really glad that you're here. And you're going to get to learn about a varietal that I don't know how much you guys know. And I actually didn't know tons about it. And now I know a lot. I'm very excited. And so, Chris, you got a top fan. You got your little, you're baiting Marla. Marla, I think today it's the day to break out your official top fan pin, if you can find it. So I hope that you are all doing really well, and I hope that you are happy to comment tonight, because that definitely adds so much to the presentation. I was thinking, oh, Leslie, welcome. Oh, great. I'm so glad everybody's here. Definitely adds to, oh, and Liz is here. Oh my gosh, it just keeps getting better and better and better.
Get to the wine.
Hi, Liz. Kisa, get to the wine, but I'm just so happy to see all of you. And Liz, I'm so glad Liz is here, because she is the one who this, wine tasting is sponsored by, really, because she has loved Chinon Blanc for years and said, why don't we taste Chinon Blanc? Why don't we taste Chinon Blanc? And I introduced her to Viognier. But she inspired the Chinon Blanc tasting. She had been asking for it, and there are some fantastic Chinon Blancs. Chris is going to prepare his cheeses. Tell us all about it, Chris. Tell us all about it. That's funny. I have my tiny little cheese plate. We actually ate today before the tasting, and I'm almost sad that I did, because what happens is when you eat before you taste, you can't taste the pure taste. So it definitely interferes in the way you're experiencing the wine. So those of you who have the wines that we're tasting tonight, they may taste a little bit differently. Those of you who have your own purchases will, you won't necessarily know unless you look at their tasting notes, but sometimes it's harder to pick out. So I went back and forth. Whenever you open a wine, you should always try it and make sure it's good. And so I poured my Chinon Blanc from the Loire first, and that was much bigger than I remembered it being last time I had it. But I think that's because I Coravined it. So I Coravined it, and that should preserve it. But I had an issue with my needle. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about, the Coravin? You puts a needle in to the bottle, to the top of the bottle. Do you want to grab it?
What is it?
On the wine fridge. I'll be specific, the little wine fridge, right by your right hand. Yes. Is that it? No? Okay. I can't see that far with my reading glasses. Yeah, that's it. So the needle, it sits on top, the needle goes in, it goes down in, it releases gas into the bottle, and then you tip, this is on top, you tip it, and it pours into your glass so that you can pour just a glass of wine and preserve your wine. I think that I had an issue with my needle, and I think it oxygenated just a little because it's much richer and fuller than I remember. It was very light the first time, or when I had it just a couple weeks ago. So, all right. So Chris says, which one are we doing first? We're doing the one from the Loire. So if you have let me do my little welcome. I know I'm scattered tonight. It's a theme. Okay. So welcome, blah, blah, blah. So glad you're all here. I really am. Done that. Much more. Thank you for that comment, Chris. So definitely the format for today, as those of you who are watching for the first time can see, all the comments make it so much more fun and a little more real. Thank you, Chris, for your comment. And but feel free to comment whatever you want to share. We're happy to hear it. And if you share about the wine, that's even better. Yes, Chris, the one with the white label is the one that we are starting with. Okay, if you have the tasting set from today. All right, and so when you're deciding if you don't have the specific tasting set, but if you have one from France and you have one from New World, from California, wherever it is, I would guess that the New World will be a little heavier. However, as you're going to learn tonight about, hi Greer, welcome. As you're going to learn tonight about Chinon Blanc, it can be so many different things that you may have a sweet wine too. So the best rule of thumb when that happens, anybody who doesn't have the wines that I have, if you have two, try both. And then you pick the lighter bodied wine. Okay, so the one that stays in your mouth less long. Okay, the longer one goes second, and that's how it goes. Hi, Mary, welcome. So, and oftentimes, like I'm doing a tasting party this weekend, and someone said, "What happens? Or don't you need a spit bucket?" Well, no, I don't need a spit bucket when I do a tasting. I mean, I bring them because it's nice to have in case someone doesn't like a wine, which never happens. But I don't need a spit bucket because I'll arrange my wines in lightest mouthfeel or body to heaviest. Okay. All right. So I have two glasses here. We're serving at 43 to 49 degrees if it's unoaked. One of the ones that we're having tonight is from France, and that's unoaked. And the other one that we're having from South Africa is oaked. So the South African is going to be more substantial. Okay. So we have that second. And then of course we have the longer, thinner glasses for the white wine, for the white wines. And here's two different examples. Okay. All right. So quick toast to everybody tonight. Cheers.
And for?
Please. We're starting with France. Keith listens very closely to me. I might have said that 4 times. So anyway, okay. So cheers to everybody. Drinking game of the night. Throw out some terms. What do we want the drinking game to be? Shauna? Are you thinking, Keith? Cheers. Oh, hi, Diney. Welcome. Cheers. Cheers. Cheers, Leslie. Okay. Cheers could be the drinking game of the night, but I think we'd be in trouble. Drinking word of the night, Chinon. Chenin, because I'm going to say it a million times. But I also am going to call out some other, well, that'll be too much. I might not do that. All right. So let's talk about Chinon Blanc. So Chinon Blanc is a white grape. It's a white wine, green grape. And it originated in the Loire Valley in France, but actually South Africa makes 50% of the Chinon Blanc in the world. Okay. So you may say, well, tell us, Allison, the varietal is Chinon Blanc. Oh, is that the word? Is that the tasting word? Or the varietal? The delay on Facebook makes it hard. So you might say, well, tell us about Chinon Blanc. Is it light? Is it zesty? Is it rich? Is it oaky? Is it sweet? Is it dry? And the answer to all of those is yes. And that's what makes it such a cool varietal. So what is it about Chinon Blanc? It's really a sommelier wine. It's one that, and we've had a couple of those in the past, but it's one that it's such a cool grape. It can be so many different things. But it's hard to understand if you don't know about Chenin Blanc. It's hard to know what to buy. Do I buy a sparkling? Do I buy a sweet? What does it say on the bottle? And a lot of it comes down to location, where it's made and how it's crafted. And so hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll have a better sense when you go to buy a Chenin Blanc, either what to look for on the label or what questions to ask when buying one. All right, so what is it about Chenin Blanc? It makes dry summer whites, sparkling reds. Some of it is oaked. And it tastes similar to Chardonnay. It rivals Chardonnay in a good way. It offers a diversity of styles because it has high acidity, and it's a great food wine. So sommeliers basically say, if anybody asks what to pair a food with, and you don't know, you say Chenin Blanc, because it will go with it. Almost like a Riesling does a little bit, but even better because of the different styles. So it can be sparkling, white, lean, dry to sweet, golden nectars and brandy. And there are a lot of top highest quality sweet dessert wines in the world made from Chenin Blanc. It can also produce very bland, neutral wines if the vines aren't controlled. And because the vine has been around for 3,000 years, that did happen, where they were overproducing, overgrowing, and adding sugar in when they didn't have as great production in Chenin Blanc. All of that happened in France and other areas of the world, and so it got a bad rap. Much like the wine we tasted a couple weeks ago, Charbonneau, it got a bad rap. And Chenin Blanc now, again, there's a movement to bring it back, and South Africa is making just stellar Chenin Blancs, as is the Loire, but just a smaller area. So it's pretty neutral. The terroir, the vintage, and the winemaker's treatment are all picked up in the wine. In the Loire, they make world-class, highly prized, premium Chenin Blanc. And again, it originated in the Loire. So it's mostly in South Africa, and then in the Loire Valley in France, but it's also made in the United States. So if anybody's ever had a Texas wine, I know we covered New York Finger Lakes weeks ago, but we didn't do Chenin Blanc. They actually make that there as well. In the Finger Lakes, I'm sure that in Long Island, they produce it as well. Argentina is growing Chenin Blanc, and China, New Zealand, and Canada, but all on very, very small production, okay? Because Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Sauvignon and all of those others are the big money makers, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. But this is a really special varietal. It's known as Steen in South Africa, but they're trying to get rid of that because they think that possibly interfered in the perception of quality. But it's also known as Pinot de Loire in the Loire. And if you've ever had a Vouvray, that's a Chenin Blanc as well. It's a region within the Loire Valley called Vouvray, and those are very distinct and, again, world-class. It also could be called, I've never seen it called this, but Court de Chambre, Bonazot, and those tend to be sweeter, and Sauvignier tend to be sweeter. Okay? All right. So those are some basic facts about Chenin Blanc. Thanks for, about Chenin Blanc. How many times have we had to drink, Keith? I've said it 18 times. It can't be the drinking word of the drinking word.
Chenin Blanc.
Chenin Blanc. I think we're going to have to go with Jess's. I'm not sure she was asking a question or offering, but I like, when I say varietal, that's the new drinking game, because I'm going to say the other words too fast and we can't cheers. Oh, Chris likes the Loire. Good. He likes the Idiart that we are tasting from France. All right, so we're going to taste together. Those of you who have two, you're going to do the lighter one first. So we're going to fully do the French wine, and we're going to talk. I'm going to just share a little bit about the winery and some pictures, and then we're going to do the South African, and then we'll cover a little bit more and answer all of your questions and also talk about California. All right, so buckle up. Here we go. What's the color? What color do we have?
Empty.
Keith's is blank, clear. Okay. Now, I'm waiting because I'm not super patient on comments, and I've been told I need to wait longer because of the 10-second delay. But clearly there's yellow in there. Okay. What else besides yellow do you see?
Gold.
Gold. Yes, this one has a gold tinge in it. What else? Anybody else pick up on colors? Ah, Oh, Chris, it's the best white wine ever. You won't find it at Walmart. Okay. All right. So a little quiet on the color comments. So it's straw yellow. It's actually, you could even say, it's actually not straw yellow. I'm sorry. It's a pale yellow or a gold. Jess says straw. You know, as I said, I think mine oxidized a little. I think that I got a little bit of oxygen in the bottle when I Coravined it. What's that?
Is that the orangey?
The orange.
It's a little orange.
Greer says champagne color. Yes, it's definitely the color of champagne, that yellow. I've seen it called straw. Leslie says light golden yellow, and Dine's is white. So that's interesting, Diney. I wonder, is yours a Chenin Blanc? And if so, I bet that means that those grapes were picked a little sooner. And they may not have sat on the yeast, on the lees, which a lot of times when they make Chenin Blanc, they do. So it'll be interesting, Diney, if you can comment where yours is from. Okay. All right. So let's do the, so it's not going to have long legs, right? We're always looking for legs because we want to know how big the mouthfeel is, how voluptuous is this going to be in our mouths. Okay. And Liz has pale straw. Yep. Okay. So all of those colors, all the words that you guys are using can be representative of white wines. Okay. I don't get it.
Not sure I want to.
Scott says Coors Light. Sadly, Scott, it is the color of Coors Light, right? That yellow, that gold, absolutely. Tiny Years is from California, and if you don't mind sharing, is it Central Coast or is it Napa? All right. So we're going to go ahead and smell it. Now, I'm going to ask you what you smell, and if you don't mind sharing, see what fruit you can pull out of this. Okay, so I'm not getting a lot of smell. I get a salinity or a saltiness, which is also an acidity or a minerality. So I'm putting my hand over the glass because if it's not highly aromatic, I swirl it like that. And that gives me some additional smells, and I'm picking up some fruit after that. I just got some pear, okay? So while you guys comment what you're smelling, I'm gonna give you some hints. Oh, Keith got sour apple. Yeah, I get that. Now that you say that, I can smell that, yeah. So less ripe grapes are going to smell and taste more like passion fruit. And as you get more ripe, it's going to go passion fruit, apple, pear, and then the most ripe, you'll get peach. So that'll give you a little bit, like Donnie, when I was saying yours might be lighter, if it's less ripe, it might be a passion fruit or a tropical fruit smell when they pick the grapes. And I say that because Chenin Blanc is really hard to harvest. It ripens at different times, and so they have to go through and do a couple pass-throughs of hand harvesting. Okay, so Greer's getting earthy, yep, and I would almost call that mineral, the earth on a white wine, more mineral or acidic. And Leslie gets apple, absolutely. And I would call it a green apple, Leslie. Pear, definitely, Liz, pear. Marla gets watermelon and other melon. Yes, so the one that Marla has a lot of tropical fruit in it. And so that tells you it's a little bit less ripe. And she's getting citrus and pear, apple. Interesting. Yep. And Jess is getting the pear. And Chris, I don't want to know where the fruit is coming out of. Greer is getting pear, and Chris is getting pear. Yeah, this is an interesting one because the one I have, it doesn't have a lot of aromatics, so I'm struggling to pull additional smell out. I'm going to say quince. Quince for 500. What is a quince? But definitely quince. And Scott says it smells like rain. Yes, and that's that minerality. That's that wet stone minerality. Good call. And from the Loire Valley, oftentimes that soil, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that soil is going to give you that wet stone. And as we know from Chenin Blanc, from just the few minutes we've been talking, that it really pulls up the terroir. And that's why I'm going to talk about this again, but that's why for Chenin Blanc, older vines are better vines. And that's why South Africa is making such amazing Chenin Blanc, because their vines are like 50, 60 years old, where in France, a lot of them were pulled out, but the Loire still has some older vines. Okay, good. All right, what does it taste like? Let's go ahead and taste it. And as a reminder, when we taste it, we do 2 tastes. The first one to wake up our taste buds. And the second one to really hone in on what you're tasting there. Okay, so go ahead and share with us. So Chris got the watermelon. All right, what else? What else did you get? I'm getting honey. Okay, I don't want to say, I want to give you guys a chance. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that bitterness that's kind of overwhelming everything.
Yeah. So Keith has a bitterness, not to him, but to his wife. And Keith has a little bitterness. I love him anyway. So the bitterness that you're getting is probably from the dinner we ate. So I ate a cracker, and that cleansed my palate a little bit. So Diney's getting some pear. Chris needs more cheese, and the cheese is definitely going to play with that acid. Then Marla has peach and apple, yep, and pear, absolutely. Okay, so everything you guys are getting, it's a lot of pear, it's a lot of peach, a lot of apple, and as we know, we're all drinking different wines. The one that I have is a little bit more honeyed, but here are some things that you can pull out. So see if you pull any of these out of what you're tasting. Yellow apple, quince, pear, obviously we said that.
What is a quince?
What is a quince? Baked apple, bruised apple. Okay, so that has to do with the experience of, probably the ripeness of the grape, the bruised apple. Passion fruit, and lime, honeydew melon, peach, persimmon, mandarin orange. So you could get any of those. Okay, so Leslie's getting the peach and Chris is enjoying the acidity. So that's the point of these French wines. That acidity with food just is so awesome. And Chinon Blanc can be drank as a varietal drink, can be drank as a varietal on its own or with food. Yep.
Nothing but bitter apple.
Yep. And Diney got the honey. Yep, good. And then you also can get, and I don't know what this is, lemon verbena. I can't put a verbena. So if you guys can describe lemon verbena, I would be interested.
You know what a quince is, but you don't know what
I do know what a quince is because we went to Australia.
And I should have known a quince.
It's tart. Yeah, it's very tart. Violet, honey, and apple. Yes. Yes. Let me see if I can get the violet. I definitely get some kind of floral. I definitely get a floral. And Chris, it's interesting because you say the honey is hiding behind the acidity. That's one of the interesting things about Chinon Blanc is you might get the acidity up front, but you really want the balance. So you want to be able to pick up the fruit. And the one that I'm tasting, again, just like Chris described, you get the acid, but the longer that you pay attention to it on your palate, the more the pear, the honey, the sweeter features come out of it. And it's not sweet. It's definitely not sweet. It's a dry wine. Chris, we need a picture for that. So, and then if yours is oaked, which mine is not, if you're drinking the Loire wine that is not oaked, but anybody, if you look at the back of your label, it'll tell you if it was on oak. If it was oaked, you might get buttered popcorn, butterscotch, lemon curd, nutmeg, baked apple, graham cracker, meringue, marzipan, or brioche. So if you're tasting your wine and you pick out any of that, that tells you it's oaked. Okay? So the one that I'm tasting, and those of you who have the tasting packets, the Chinon Blanc from Nicolas Idiart in the Loire.
Nicolas is such an Idiart.
It's a 2018, and that was a good vintage. In fact, in the Loire, Chris is a one-man comedy show. You know why? He was in Block Island last 2 weeks ago, and he missed us. That's why. I think it was maybe it was a Block Island, but anyway. So from the Loire, okay. And so one of the cool things about the Loire wines is that the vintages are really important. Most French wines, the vintage is really important. And so I was looking at the vintages for Chinon Blanc. 2015 was a really, really good year. 2016 was a really, really good year. 2017. So they've had progressively, there were some really, really good years the last few years. So the Loire is up here in green, okay? And the middle Loire is where most of the Chenin Blanc is from. Okay, so this is France, those of you who are trying to figure out what I'm saying. And I don't have Instagram, so I don't have to switch back and forth. But the middle Loire is where most of Chenin Blanc is from. Okay, and look, I have a map of the middle Loire. I did not draw it. Wine
They don't
Folly.
spell it different?
No, no. It's just a section of the Loire. And so right here is Vouvray, which is one of the most famous Chenin Blanc wine regions. In fact, if you see a bottle that is called Vouvray, it's made of Chenin Blanc. Okay? And the winemaker for this wine, Nicolas Idiart, his father and his grandfather were winemakers, and so he decided to take on the family trade. And he did, some wine sales and other things for a while, but then he settled back in the Loire when he was 33 and started his winery. Okay, and here is a beautiful picture of his winery. Can you see it?
See him and it's getting there.
Okay, so you can see rolling hills, the river valley, just a really, really robust area. And of course you get all of that river valley, all of the mineral deposits that are deposited there. Okay, so it's a brilliant gold. Scott got that, I think. And it definitely has floral notes. It has chamomile, ginger, pear skin, and you definitely taste the acid on this one right away. As you all really picked out. The vineyard's in the village of Saint-Lambert-du-Latte. The vines are planted on sandy schist soil, say that 3 times fast, and have an average of 20 years old. Schist, what is schist? It's got crystalline rock-based soil. The thing about it is it retains heat well, which is good for Chenin Blanc so that it will grow more quickly and more evenly. And it also is rich in magnesium, potassium, but poor in organic nutrients and nitrogen. So it's really good because it makes the vines grow deeper and deeper and deeper. I don't think we need to get our sheet oaked, but though anybody who wants to comment as a cheers, you're always welcome to. And so as we talk about this variety, cheers. Right. And so the winemaker, varietal. For this winemaker graduated from the Bordeaux winemaking school Blanquefort at 19 years old. He was the youngest ever to graduate, and then at 33 he decided to open up his winery. He's focused on small batch handcrafted wines, and because, as I mentioned before, it's such a difficult grape to grow because it ripens unevenly. Okay, so I just want to show you. This is a bunch. This is actually Sauvignon Blanc, but imagine, and this is similar to what Chenin Blanc would look like, they're actually related. And if you can see, you can tell there are some grapes that are ripe and some that are not. And so that's what happens. And it's a really robust growing grape. So you get all of these grapes and all of this volume. And if it grows too much volume, then the grapes they just get watered down. And so what they have to do in vineyard management is go through and pick out a whole bunch of grapes and minimize the crop. They need to make them struggle for water so that less grow. And then they go through and they harvest at least twice in a season, which is not typical. They will go through and it has to be hand harvested, cannot be machine harvested, which makes it more expensive because it's hand picked. And this one was done twice. So 2 times during the season, it was hand harvested. Okay. And then the other thing which I mentioned when we were referring to Diney's White is that this one is aged on fine lees for 10 months. So if you remember, lees are the sediment from winemaking that has dead yeast, but it also might have some grape seeds and solids. And winemakers oftentimes will keep their grape juice on the solids so that they continue to extract flavor and texture and aroma, and then they'll stir it. And when you go to wineries in France, oftentimes they'll have an open barrel side, like they'll put a glass or a plastic on the edge of the barrel so you can see the lees settling, and sometimes they'll just roll the barrel and that will mix it, or they'll actually hand stir it. Okay, and that's called, the stirring is the batonnage. But it strengthens the wine, the harmony, the balance, and it makes it, gives it more finesse and more intensity. Okay, so this wine, it's great with oysters, clams, fish, shellfish, feta, and brie. And so if you have any pairings that you found were really good, go ahead and share with us. And Chris, yeah, go ahead and open the other bottle. Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the Loire in France. Anjou, Saumur, and Touraine are the big wine regions within the Middle Loire. It's a cool area. So again, that problem with uneven ripening. Um, and if you are looking at a wine label in France, you want to pick for this area, for the Loire, you want it to say sec on it, because sec is dry. If it doesn't say sec, so we know that this is a Chinon Blanc, and this one doesn't tell you how we know it's dry, but a lot of them will say SEC, sec on it, and that means the dry one. Okay. So Jess Weller asks a great question. She asks, they have an unopened bottle of Chinon Blanc from 2019. Should we wait a year or so to drink it? So Jess, that is okay. That was my next question. Okay, so if you said it's from Central Valley in California, I would say you can open it. Depending on where it was from in South Africa or who made it, Chinon Blanc does really, really well with bottle age. So if it's a 2019, yes, I would definitely bottle age it, especially if it's from the Loire. Is it one that you brought back? Is that how you got it? I'm kind of surprised that you have a 2019. Okay, let us know. All right, so because the wine is acidic, or the varietal drink is acidic, highly acidic, the less ripe grapes make a great base for sparkling wines and also blending. And so in California, a lot of the grapes for a long time were used to blend because of the high acidity. Okay, and then there's Vouvray, which I mentioned before, in the Middle Loire, and that's just outside the city of Tours. And they have a style that's no oak, fresh fruit, acidity, and a hint of minerality. And they will usually age a little bit in the bottle for that one. They are very, very well known, the Vouvrays, and they're exceptional. Okay, so if you take Chinon Blanc, which is fantastic, out of the Middle Loire, then you narrow it down to Vouvray. It's a specific style, and you can tell it's from Vouvray when you drink it. Yeah, so Jess says it's a gift. I would save it. I would save it at least a year or two. Yes, Liz says unevenly ripened. Sounds like a pain in the... Yes, Liz, absolutely it is, and it's awesome. It makes it awesome. So totally worth it. Okay, so Marla asks, what does it mean if Chinon Blanc is Loire Valley style? Okay, so Marla is drinking a fantastic wine from California. It's actually from a vineyard that's in Napa, but the grapes are from the Sacramento area. It's a special area in Sacramento where they're doing beautiful Chinon Blancs. And so that means, it's such a great question, it means it's made in the style of the old world, that it's going to be likely unoaked, it's going to be more acidic, more minerally, and they're going for that French finesse. So whenever a wine is made in the US where it's styled after France, and they might say a Burgundian style or a Bordeaux style, and they say that around the world, but that means that they're trying to make it that food friendly. It really is an indication of a finer wine, right? Rather than just a sipping wine. South African wines also now are going for, not all of them, but the higher level vineyards there are going for that style as well, the Loire style, that minerally, the fruit, but also that acid, food-friendly wine, okay, rather than big fruit. All right, great questions. So in France, they mandate that yields be kept low, which keeps the integrity of the wine varietal drink. Okay, and they mandate the low yields, which then forces out some of these specific characteristics, especially being a cold area. So floral and honey aromas are typical for the Loire. Cooler growing climate. 2015 was one of the best vintages ever, but 16, 17, and 18 are still really good, as I said before. And then one of the special things about Chinon Blanc that I have to call attention to, it's really important that I highlight this. In the Loire, they'll use Chinon Blanc for some of the top wines in the world that are sweet dessert wines. And what they do is they let botrytis, the fungus, grow on the grapes. And it's called noble rot. And those fungi eat out a lot of the moisture and leave the sugar. And so they do it purposely because then they get these really intense, sweet, complex juices when they press these grapes. And it concentrates the grape sugar. It leads to rich flavors. They can get orange marmalade, ginger, saffron, and they're the late harvest wines. And they make some of the best sweet wines in the region. So some famous noble rot wines are Sauterne from Bordeaux, Tokai from Hungary. These are like really expensive, really fantastic dessert wines, and Spatlies level German Riesling. And so I just want to call that out because those are made in France in the Loire. Well, the ones in the Loire are the Court des Champs and the Bonazou. I know I'm killing the pronunciations. So the one Marla is drinking, by the way, she mentioned it's only $11, and I saw it online for $13.99. She found it in Connecticut, and it is one of the best from California. So I highly recommend that. That price point and the taste quality, fantastic. So Greer says, how would one know what years are very good vintages in every given area? Yeah, you have to search it. It's all online. So you could look up Loire, but you have to look up the specific varietal. So it's really hard to pick out, but then you'll find other charts where, like one of them I was looking at just had Sauvignon Blanc, Chinon Blanc, and I think Cabernet Sauvignon, something like that. So yes, you can Google those. Great question. Okay. Yes. And so Chris says he's on to the second, which is the South African, and that one has more rich flavors. Yes. So moving on to the South African one, and those of you who just have one, what I want to ask you to do is compare it. See how it compares to the South African versus the French. Okay. So I'm guessing like if it's a California one, it's going to be more like the one from Loire, but the South African one is interesting. Okay, so did you know, I doubt you did because I just found this out too, Wine Enthusiast rated South African Chinon Blanc to be the greatest wine in your glass in the summer of 2019. Thank you, Liz. All right, so let's take a look at the second one. Okay, so if you have one, go ahead and sip along with us, but we're going to look at the color of this one. All right. It looks a little bit lighter. When I poured it, it definitely looked lighter to me than the first. It tastes heavier. Anybody have any insight into the color of this one? Throw out some yellow words.
Coors Light.
Keith gets Coors Light. It's an exceptional varietal. Okay, I skipped the smells, but we're going to go back. I just really, really wanted to drink it. Okay, so I would call this a pale gold. That's what I would call this. It's definitely gold. Okay, and if you do the legs,
the other one.
It is. It may be that I have more. They're very similar in color.
I was gonna. No, it's lighter though.
So Keith thinks that the second one is a little bit lighter. It's interesting because this one was on the lees as well, but for 10 months, so one extra month. But it also has oak. So it's interesting that it is a little bit lighter. Let's see what people say. Definitely gold, gold, gold. Yeah, everybody got some gold in there. Good. Okay. And then the viscosity, this is definitely a thicker, heavier wine. I don't know if you can see, those of you who don't have this one, it sticks to the glass a little bit more. Okay. And if you have two glasses going, you can compare side by side, right? So even though there's more wine and it gets confusing, you can compare side by side to see how viscous they seem to be. All right, so go ahead and swirl. What do you smell? This one's definitely more aromatic. I'm definitely getting more smells from this one. Okay, so that we don't hang out too long waiting, I'm going to just share with you. So orange rind and apricot, okay? See if you can pick those out. So good. Okay, and then the tastes. Let's taste it. Oh, I love this wine. Okay, so, and I really, really, really liked the first. I just love this. So those of you who don't have these two, and you have your own, as I call these words out of what it tastes like, see if you can pick those up, because they're characteristics of all Chinon Blancs. They're just more standard or more profound in the ones that I'm drinking. That's why I'm focusing on those. But see if you can pick them up in yours, because those taste qualities might be found in yours. And it, oh, cut out. Can you check with the girls and make sure they're not streaming, please?
I think there's a lot.
It says cut out the video.
You want me to turn off my Facebook?
Just tell the girls, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I get, turn yours off and then tell them. No, it's not that. Okay. And will you guys go ahead and comment if you can still see me? I see Diney's comment. So I can't see my video, which is fine. I just want to make sure that you can see me. Okay. So Diney, this is the name, or this is the bottle. Okay. It's like biting into a ripe Concord grape. So, okay. I'm going to address what each question. All right. Even though I can't see you. So I'm hoping that I will come back, but let me know if anything, if on your end, anything happens. Okay. So Diney said, what's the name of the wine? So this is Botanica. This is not it. It's the Mary Delaney collection, and it's from Botanica Wines. It's a Chinon Blanc from the Citrusdal Mountains in South Africa. And it's a really special wine label, so I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. But it's a 2017. Okay, so you guys can still see and hear me. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I just won't be able to see myself, and that's fine. All right, so to go back, that's the name of it. So, so Leslie says the South Africa one is bolder. It absolutely is. Okay. It's definitely a bigger, bolder wine. And Chris, I appreciate that all of you see me. Okay. And it is the bottle of awesomeness. All right. So it's got pear, it's got citrus, it's got stone fruit, tropical fruit. Then if you think about it on your palate, that acid, it's almost like it dances on your palate. It's just there, ever present on your palate. I can still taste it. Then I'm getting tropical fruit. I've got some vanilla. It's tangy. It's definitely tangy, and it has a mineral core to it. And that probably is playing a role with the acidity. So I no longer taste it. So from the time I tasted it until then, that's how long it stays on your palate. It's a big, beautiful wine. It's complex, it's elegant, and it was on the lees for 9 months, as I mentioned. Oh, 9 months, so one month less. You know, that could be why it's a little bit lighter. As Keith mentioned, it was lighter than the first. That was 10 months on the lees. This is 9. Okay, so here's the, I need it. Here, okay, Keith wants more. Okay, so here's Botanica Wines, which is where this is from, was founded in 2009. You ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? By owner and self-taught winemaker Ginny Pavel from the Boston area. I don't know exactly what town she's from in Boston, but she pretty much started making wine on her own, just like ordering grapes and making wine at her house, and started getting really interested in it. And then she was working down on Wall Street in New York, and she hated her job. And so at some point she left and started getting into winemaking and moved to South Africa. And in 2008, she purchased Protea Heights from, it's a farm, and it's in Stellenbosch in South Africa. And the vineyard was established in the 1940s, so it had been there for a long time. But it was the first farm in South Africa to cultivate the indigenous Protea flowers commercially. And so here's a picture.
Is that legal?
And I'm still not back, just so you know, Keith. I can't see myself still.
Huh, okay.
And so these are the flowers. And when they open up, you might even recognize them. We don't get them as much here as they do in Europe, but they're huge. And so that's why a lot of her bottles you'll see. Keith, can you grab me the Arboretum from the table in the other room? It's a big flower bottle. She started making Bordeaux blends, beautiful Bordeaux blends, and she started to focus on those blends. But the Chinon Blanc has been something like a passion project. It's beautiful for her. She's enjoyed it. So she's all about the environment. She's all about nature. She developed her wine brands all because of the Protea flower with a botanical flair. So you can see this beautiful label, Arboretum. That's one of her Bordeaux blends. Okay, all really good. All right. And so one of the cool things about her land, about her area, the farm that she bought, is there's Sugarbird Manor. It's a 4-star luxury guest house with 9 guest rooms and 4 cottages. So I think we all should visit there. The label itself is the Mary Delaney collection. So she was living in Connecticut, and she went to an art exposition and at Yale, the Center for Art, and she saw these paintings and she just loved it. And the artist was Mary Delaney. And they were handcrafted in the 1700s using tiny pieces of hand-cut paper. And so she petitioned the British Museum to use these on her labels. And so I'm going to definitely make a candle out of this one. If anybody has one and wants me to make a candle, I'd love to make one for you. But it's a work of art. She's moving away from the Mary Delaney collection because the vineyard is actually 3.5 hours north. Okay, so let me show you. And again, I can't see what you guys can see, but this is South Africa. Stellenbosch is down in this area, which is where most of the wines are from. The best wines, that's where their cab is, okay? And the Citrusdale Mountains are actually up here on the Western Cape on the Atlantic Ocean. And so it's a vineyard. It's 3.5 hours north for her to go up there and see her vineyards. And the people who work there, she said, if they get a ride, like a lot in South Africa, a lot of people will get different rides. They ride share. If the farmers get a ride and get dropped off on the road, it's a 2-hour walk from the road to the vineyard. So it's really, really, really remote. And so that makes it a little difficult. Okay. This is her vineyard here with the flowers all around. And then they cleared the vineyard land in between and planted. But the Chinon vineyards, the Chinon Blanc vineyards, way up in the north, that's these. And they're on clay soil. You can see how red the soil is. That's her farmer, Hank. And that's the soil. Can you see it in the video?
Not yet. Still void.
Okay. All right. So that's a picture of those. And you can see how old the vines are. The vines are, see how big they are? That's, you know that those are old vines. Again, 53, 54 years old. Okay. And here's just another picture so you can see the color of the clay soil. And you know that these grapes are picking up all of that robust clay. Yeah, Chris, I'll definitely put them up on the website. Absolutely. Okay. And one of the cool things, and I know I'm moving a little slow with this, but one of the cool things about this area in South Africa is that they, well, for her, she's organic. So all of her wines that are farmed in Stellenbosch are organic. And she had a really hard time, and this is kind of interesting, as you can imagine, when she went to South Africa, a lot of the workers had been farming the flowers, but not the wine, so she had to teach them. And then her top winemaker, her head vineyard master, which is not the right word, but he had a hard time with organic. He wasn't sure that that was the way to go. But after working with her, he was convinced that it was. And so he... So they do things like they have raptors, they have chickens, they put mulch down to rid the pests. They have little beetles that they have trouble with. And then they have chickens that go in between the vines. But the problem is the chickens were pushing the mulch out of the way. So then they were losing that effect, but they've tried lots of different things. And so Diney asked, does the clay affect the color of the wine? It doesn't, Diney, and that's a great question. And the reason is, yeah, it doesn't affect the color of the wine because, hey, Leanne, welcome. I'm glad you made it. Absolutely, better late than never. So Diney had just asked, does the clay affect the color of the wine? And it actually, because if you think about how far down these vines are going, I mean, they're going, I want to say, I'm not sure how long, and I know meters or hectares just from my wine tours in Europe they've talked about.
10 feet.
Okay, so they're going lots of feet. They're going way down. So the clay in the soil definitely affects the taste. But if you imagine it's going up into the vines and then traveling up and then up into the grapes, it'll affect the taste, but not the color. They're not pulling up the color. That's a great question. They're pulling up the minerals. And I'm going to have to research why they don't pull in the color, but they don't. It's a great question. Okay. All right. So, So they're organic. It's vegan friendly. I know we always have a question on our vegan friendly wines. It's vegan friendly, and she only produces 6,200 bottles of this. But the producer or the distributor that I'm working with, he has a special relationship with her because of her Connecticut and Massachusetts connections, and so we have access to a lot of her wines. Okay, so they hand harvested it as most Chenin Blancs are, hand sorted, and then fermented half in stainless steel and half in oak, French oak. So left on the lees, as we talked about before, the yeast and all of those other pieces to make it more complex and bring out more of the colors. And then they blend it together before they ship it. So oak, stainless steel, then they blend it together, put it in the bottle. Leslie went to their website, and they do, a lot of these wineries will have awesome videos and pictures. It's just so cool. We tasted, what did we taste? The other week we tasted from Raptor Ridge. And I just love their website, and they do wine tastings like out in the vineyards on their site. So I highly recommend checking that out. This wine has earned a 7 maximum 5-star rating in Platter's South African Wine Guide since it debuted in 2009. Okay, so all right. So Chris does not care about the vegan part, and that's good, Chris. I'm going to talk about food pairings right now. Sip on it on its own, or pair it with turkey, salmon, or triple creme. Fantastic. All right, so South Africa is the largest producer of Chenin Blanc, as I said before. Now, I can't remember if it was Chris or Chris Ryan who mentioned the Dutch several weeks ago, but the Dutch are actually key in South Africa. So in 1655, they came over, the Dutch trading company, and they brought these Chenin Blanc vines, and they planted them all over South Africa. And so at first they were used to create the spirit base for brandy. And then they started making finer wines really just in the last 20 years, I would say. They have some stellar, really good price South African wines, but sometimes it's hard to get. So I was listening to a seminar with the winemaker from Big Flower. You know, being from the Boston area, you'd think that she could get all her wines over here, and she can't. And she was mentioning just these amazing South African wines. And she's like, oh yeah, well, they're not distributed in the US. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully we'll start to see more. So when you're in South Africa, you're working with some of the oldest soils in the world because of the continent. Some, they say, may even be the same as the soils that you find in France. They're sometimes blended with Semillon, sometimes with Viognier, sometimes with Marsanne, and sometimes with Chardonnay. In South Africa, they've been facing drought conditions, and at first they really worried in 2016 for the Chenin. But what they found is that it's actually producing smaller crops and lower yields. So the Chenin Blanc is actually it's showing higher acid, and they're getting higher quality fruit. So it's actually making the Chenin Blanc from South Africa some of the world's finest. So the South African winemaker is quoted saying, it's like a drunk comedian with a personality disorder. It can literally be anything. It's a metaphor for South Africa because it's so diverse. So thank you, Liz, a drunk comedian with a personality disorder. Yep, that is, cheers to everybody. Chenin Blanc. Let's see, there's more, okay? Depending on how it's picked, and this is the idea. If it's picked early, you get citrus, grass, white fruit. If it's picked riper, you get, and then you put in some in the barrel and some lees, you'll have a wine that's more like a Chardonnay. So the original Chenin Blanc had no oak. It was very light, super crisp, but it had this texture, this rich vanilla or butterscotch texture, even without the oak. And so that's one of the reasons people love it. The original Chenin Blanc has no oak aging whatsoever. That's the name of it, OCB, Original Sauvignon Blanc. It's made by Ken Forrester. Some of you may have heard his name. He is like one of the big pioneers of Chenin Blanc in South Africa. And he, so that earned a name at a competition in, I think it was 2004, 2005. And so he then created FMC, which some people believe it's effing mind-blowing or effing magnificent Chinon, FMC. He says it's Forrester Menard Chenin. And Chenin Blanc, again, makes it hard for consumers if you don't understand it. So all of you hopefully are getting a better understanding of it. And I'd love to try the sweets, but the dries are just fantastic. If you see it on a wine list and they have a sommelier, I would order it because chances are the sommelier really knows what they're talking about and has picked a fine example. All right, in California, they actually grow more Chenin Blanc than France, but they use it in blends. So standout areas, I mentioned the area near Sacramento. That's Clarksburg. That's where Marla's, the grapes are from, Clarksburg, which is, again, outside of Sacramento. And then the winery is from Napa. And so there's probably 7 or 8 really good Chenin producers in the Clarksburg area in Yolo County. I just love that name, Yolo County. In Napa, there are some top makers, but it's few and far between. Chapelette, which makes a great red blend as well. Pine Ridge, Dry Creek, they all make really great, really beautiful Chenins. And you know, one of the things that I found that was kind of cool in the history of Chenin Blanc is that it was made famous when all of the servicemen returned from World War II. And if you think about where the Loire is, where the Loire Valley is, it's just below, it's just south of Normandy. So that tells you something about where kind of what the popularity came from it. But it's not just a standard wine. People are a little afraid of it, so they don't buy it because they're unsure. So in California, it ended up getting a bad name because it was overcropped because it grows so easily. So it became more bland and it became neutral. Became somewhat neutral. Okay. All right. So we talked about, and I have all this, you know, I can go through every type of, I'm not going to do it. Don't worry. I can go through every type of soil and talk about how it changes what you're drinking in your glass. Each soil, whether it's granite or if it's volcanic or whatever it is, it plays a role in shaping how it tastes and the way the winemaker makes it. If it's on lees, if it's bottle aged, if it has a little oak in it. Okay. And I'll give you an example. If it's on granite, it's going to have more acidity. If it's on ironstone, it gets yellow citrus with rosemary. If it's on a well-drained and less organic sandy soil, it gives a lighter style of wine that matures more quickly. Okay, so just to give you an idea, it's made in sparkling, lean and dry, which is really what we're having, aromatic and off-dry, and then the golden sweet nectar. All right, and its parent is the grape from Jura called Savagnin, which is not Sauvignon, but it's a sibling of Sauvignon Blanc, and it's also related to Cabernet Sauvignon, right? Because in France, all of those wines are related, all the varietals, crossbred. Okay, oops. All right, so I guess I want to share. I have food pairings for you and how to buy. But a word on South Africa. I once was told by my original training in wine, my winemaker said, listen, don't worry about South Africa. They're not making anything fantastic. And he didn't see them in the future making anything fantastic. And I disagree. I don't think it's an up-and-coming region. I think they are already making great wines, and it's just a matter of finding them. Like in the New Hampshire State Liquor Store, you're not going to find a lot of great South African wines, and only because they're just not bringing them over. They don't sell like the California or even like the French or the Italian. Okay, so when you go to buy Chenin Blanc, you buy it by location. Okay, so the Loire and some areas of California in the Loire style, the cooler climate, they're going to have more citrus flavors. Warmer climate, South Africa, South America, Texas. Texas is making some award-winning Chenin Blanc. They're going to be riper, richer fruits with sweeter notes. Okay, it's not always that. You sometimes may have to ask. All right, food pairings. Tell us what you ate that went well with these wines. Tell us what you ate and which wine if you have two. All right, as you're doing that, as you're sharing with us, this is a great Thanksgiving wine. People ask me all the time if what a good Thanksgiving wine is, and Chenin Blanc is a good Thanksgiving wine. It's if it's fresh and fruity in style, like the first one that we tried, it's great with vegetable dishes or salad. Leslie said that she's enjoyed the South African wines. Yes, good. I'm glad, Leslie. And there's a varietal Pinotage that is starting to come out as well that more and more people are making. But if you can find a Ken Forrester wine, From is a good one that's over in the U.S. And definitely the Big Flower and the Botanica wines are excellent. All right, so if they're oaked like this one is, I would say rich fish, cream-based chicken. Think sweet and sour, awesome acidity, sweet flavor, pairs well with foods that have sweet and sour element like Southern Asian. Oh, it went great with modern pizza. Awesome, Mar. That's true. Nothing doesn't go with modern pizza. Absolutely. Sweet matches for dessert. So sweet Chinon Blancs with desserts could be good. And then it can go with pork dishes, turkey, chicken, vegetables like cabbage, cauliflower, carrots, tropical fruit, guava, passion fruit. It does say to avoid pungent, really pungent, like blue cheese. It will overpower the wine. Meat pairings we talked about. Pork chops, I said. And so I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. And I will definitely, wow, the time went very fast. I will definitely put it up on my website. And anytime we try a wine, if you don't see it on the site, if you shoot me a note, I'll put it back up. I'm trying to just keep a small inventory, but I can always post up and take down. So let me know. And Chris, I'm glad your Gouda went well with it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed both of them. Have a good thing. As always, I know how valuable your time is. It's so important to me that it means so much to both Keith and I that you spend this time with us. And so thank you very much. And I wish you all good health and a great night, and cheers to all of you.
To do. It's a wrap.